What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So we have, I feel, is a significant update for The Strangers Chapter 2. It's been a minute since we've gotten an update on this, so I am excited that we are talking about The Strangers, because as you know, and as I've mentioned before, the original film is one of my favorite horror films, thrillers, I guess, however you want to refer to it, thrillers, slasher, whatever. Still within the horror genre, but again, the original Strangers film is by far one of my favorite films. Now, we've talked about the franchise a bit. We've talked about the follow-ups, and yeah, they're not all that great. Let's be honest. Like for example, we had, again, the original film came out in 2008, which again I absolutely loved. The second film that they attempted to do, which was a huge gap in time between the first and the second, because the second one, The Strangers Prey at Night, came out in 2018. Now, had a different director, but the screenwriter from the original film was still the screenwriter in partnership with somebody else for the second film. It was okay, had its moments here and there, but overall, it just didn't hit as well as the first one did. So then we went on a hiatus again for another 5-6 years, give or take, when The Strangers, this new trilogy, like prequel trilogy, was announced. And we were supposed to get all these films, all three of these films, I believe it was in 2004. That didn't work out. We only got Chapter 1. And then they released they're going to be releasing Chapter 2 in September of this year. And then we're not getting Chapter 3 until 2026, which again, I think is unfortunate. I would have loved to have gotten all these back in 2024, but that's just not how it worked out. And maybe that's for the best. Maybe they're going to be doing some changes. So with that said, we have 3 different updates that we're going to cover off on. We have some new character posters that got released. We have an exclusive clip from the film. Plus we have an update from Renny Harlin. And apparently he's the director. He's the director of the 3 films. And my understanding was they were all filmed pretty much at the same time. And then we're just, I think it's like I think they said it was like a 4.5, almost 5 hours, one long continuous film. Then they chopped it up into 3 chapters. Is how I believe it was originally done. So he's the director. He apparently gave an update at San Diego Comic-Con, which has just kicked off, I think, yesterday or started today. So we're going to take a look at that update from him, and then we'll finish it off with the exclusive clip. So let's jump into it. As you see here, The Strangers Chapter 2, the masked slashers return with 3 official posters. And you guys know how I am about my movie posters. I'm hoping they keep them clean. I'm hoping they are a good representation of the slashers, the killers for this particular franchise. So let's jump into it. The Strangers are back in 2 months with the theatrical release of The Strangers Chapter 2. Director Renny Harlin's follow-up to The Strangers Chapter 1. Reunite with the Man in the Mask, Pinup Girl, and Dollface. I think these are, again, 3 of my favorite horror villains, horror killers, whatever. I just think they're very uniquely done, especially in the original film. I can't preface that enough, and you probably will hear me say that up until the point we get Chapter 2. Just over 1 year after the Strangers Chapter 1 kickstarted a new trilogy of terror tales. Lionsgate is getting set to unleash the Strangers Chapter 2 in theaters September 26th. Here's the official synopsis. The Strangers are back more brutal and relentless than ever. When they learn that one of their victims, Maya, is still alive, they return to finish what they've started. With nowhere to run and no one to trust, Maya must survive another horrific chapter of terror as the Strangers, driven by a senseless, unceasing purpose, pursue her, more than willing to kill anyone who stands in her way. Let's keep going. We have a little bit about Renny Harlin's past films he's been involved in, so we don't need to read all that. We also have some casting. Again, don't need to read that. I want to get right to the poster. So I think this is going to be our first poster. Absolutely love the poster. I love how clean this is, a true representation of one of the characters from the film. They have just the basic text at the bottom. Again, I would do away with Survival was just the beginning. But, I mean, it's small enough. It doesn't stand out. It's not overtaking the poster itself. So I'm very, very happy with this poster. Let's keep going. Again, So it looks like they're only changing the character and leaving at least the text and everything the same. Love this poster as well. I think Pinup Girl and Dollface. I think these three mask slasher or killers are very underrated, and I think the mask that they wear, especially Pinup Girl and Dollface, are just not something you would expect. So again, I just think they're very well done. So I'm loving the posters so far. We have the last one here. Yeah, and again, pretty much the same exact where the text is, keeping it very clean. Big fan of these posters because, as you guys have heard me say before, I don't like it when they put all that nonsense on there where it says, you know, Rotten Tomatoes score 98%, and New York Times says scariest movie ever. I just hate when they just mess up movie posters like that. So to see something like this that just says, you know, here are our killers, and here's the title of the film, right? And if you know, and then here's like their weapon of choice, so to speak, right? I mean, he's got his axe, machete, and then some garden shears right here. I would say of the three, I'd say the garden shears one. I think this first one here is gotta be my favorite. I think this has gotta be my favorite. Nothing against these two, but I just think when you get to see almost the entirety of the mask itself is what makes this one my favorite. So, yep, those are our three new movie posters for The Strangers Chapter 2. Very, very happy to see those again, showing us what Man in the Mask, Pinup Girl, and Dollface are looking like. So very, very happy with those. All right, so let's now jump over to Renny Harlin's San Diego Comic-Con comments. So this was literally just published. As you can, I mean, it says published 6 seconds ago, but it's probably been 10-15 minutes now since this update got released. So we're really getting this information as real time as we can. So Renny Harlin addresses The Strangers Chapter 2 reshoots based on Chapter 1 reactions, which is a bit, I'm not surprised that they would do reshoots, but it's crazy because the film has been done for quite some time. And I think to go back and do reshoots, I'm hoping that the reshoots don't stand out compared to the original things that were already filmed, right? We've seen that before with other films, primarily comic book films, where it's been, again, a significant amount of time. Again, 2024, they would have been filming in, 2023, early 2024, and now you're doing reshoots for a film that's going to be coming out later, a couple months. Actors look different, they age, things change, right? So I'm hoping, again, whatever reshoots that they've done, it doesn't stand out like, oh, yep, that 3 minutes was the reshoot. So let's jump into it as to why they did some reshoots. At the Strangers Chapter 2 panel at San Diego Comic-Con, Renny Harlin addressed the reshoots the film underwent, although the director prefers to call them enhancements. I mean, I guess that's a way to put it. I don't know why we needed to call it that. I mean, you did reshoots, right? Everyone knows what that means. You're either making some changes based on fan reaction or based on the fact that something didn't work. So just call it a reshoot. You don't need to call it enhancements. It is what it is. It's purely from listening to the audience. This is the quote. The first movie came out and we got a lot of feedback from fans and regular moviegoers, Harlin told the crowd. We realized that while we had crafted this 4.5-hour movie that we had broken into 3 chapters. Yeah, okay. I thought it was closer to 5, but 4.5, yeah, it makes sense. There were definitely room for learning from the audience experience and listening to the fact that the audience was interested in some things that we're not exploring it enough yet. Quote continues, one of those is the fact that people want to know more about the strangers. We are not saying what their names are and where they live and if they like lasagna, he smiles. But we are showing some glimpses of their history in the movie, which I think deepens those characters, makes them more interesting, but doesn't take anything away from the fact that these are real people. They could be anywhere around us, and the killings are totally random. So I do enjoy the fact that we would get a bit more about our 3 killers, because I think sometimes when we get into a horror film, sometimes, in the majority of the time, it doesn't make sense. We don't need a backstory. We don't need a half the movie being the history of the character. But when you're doing something like this, when you're doing a trilogy, chapter 1, 2, and 3, it does make sense to spend some time at that point. Let's get some backstory, why they are who they are, why they're doing what they're doing. You have the time to do it, so it makes sense to do it. So I am happy that the reshoots will include some of that. All right, Harlin continues the quote. To be able to go back and explore those things that you couldn't do before and have a little more time with your actors and the visuals that you want to create and the kind of scares you realize really work well and so on. It's an incredible privilege for a director. He concludes, I don't call it reshoots at all because that's not what it was about. It was about adding and enhancing the experience. Producer Courtney Solomon added that the second film in the trilogy was finished, complete with color correction, sound mix, and visual effects when the studio granted them additional funding for the enhancements. The Strangers trilogy was originally filmed simultaneously over the course of 52 days in Slovakia, but the additional shoot for the second and third installments brought the shoot to a total of around 80 days. Harlin also commented on The Strangers Chapter 2 similarities to Halloween 2, another hospital set slasher sequel, which horror fans were quick to point out after seeing the trailer. We pointed that out as well when we saw the trailer, because this was something that was brought up when the trailer released, and they mentioned that it had some Halloween 2 aspects, and we were talking about I'm sure they're talking more specifically about Halloween 1981, the original part 2. I, for one, I mean, you all know, I love Halloween. Halloween's my favorite, and you all know I love the first 2 Halloween films. I know a lot of people do not like Halloween Part 2. They think it was a horrible sequel. I, in fact, love it. I love the fact that it's literally a continuation from where the first film ended and moves on. Now, in the trailer, though, when we did the trailer review, we talked about the fact that, yeah, there's some hospital scenes, but there were plenty of scenes in that trailer that were outside the hospital. Unlike Halloween 2, where the vast majority of the film takes place in the hospital. Obviously, the first probably 15-20 minutes doesn't, because that's where Michael is still wandering around the neighborhood before he eventually finds out that Laurie was taken to the hospital. He ends up there, and again, that's where then the majority of the film then takes place. The way the trailer for this, though, Chapter 2 is set up, it doesn't appear to be that way. It could just be how they cut the trailer, but the trailer does, again, show some hospital scenes, but not a majority of it is hospital scenes. So it might be deceiving how the trailer was cut up, especially with these comments continuously coming about that it feels like the similarities with Halloween 2. All right, so let's continue to. I have to confess that, of course, I saw Halloween 2, but when we were making this movie, I didn't remember that it had this whole big hospital thing in it. I swear to God, I'm sure it was somewhere in the back of my mind, but it wasn't intentional. We felt it was a fantastic environment to explore. We are going to explore this hospital in some very new and frightening ways. All right, let's keep going. Solomon noted that The Strangers Chapter 3 is on pace to be completed around the time of Chapter 2's release, so the wait for the trilogy's conclusion should be much shorter than the breakdown between the first 2 entries. And all we know at this point for Chapter 3, again, is that it's supposed to come out in 2026. We just don't know exactly when at this point. With this one coming out in September, I would love if they would release Chapter 3 in the early part of 2026, so it's much closer to this release, so we don't have to wait another almost full year before getting the third film, especially if they're saying it's going to be done by September. We have another poster here, which I love as well. Again, they're keeping it very clean, everything at the bottom, just like the last 3 posters we looked at. While I do love this poster as well, the vote for my poster of the 4 would still be the other one that we already talked about. But yeah, that's the end of this article. So that's the latest from San Diego Comic-Con. From the director, the producer, on what's going on with Chapter 2, why some reshoots, enhancements were done, and when we can expect to get Chapter 3. Hopefully it will be in the early part of 2026, not the latter. All right, so let's go. We're going to jump over to the final update, which again, this is a clip from Chapter 2, which we're going to take a look at. So The Strangers Chapter 2 clip, the nightmare continues for Madelaine. So let's jump right into it. If the first movie was a home invasion, the second is a town invasion. The Strangers Chapter 2 director Renny Harlin teased at San Diego Comic-Con tonight. So this would have been last night. The strangers are among us, and they could be anyone, which we already heard that quote. Watch the first official clip for a sneak peek of the new sequel, which we're going to do here in a moment. All right, so all this is everything we've already covered as far as Chapter 1, Chapter 2's date, the synopsis, all that we know, Renny's history. Like, yeah, these 2 paragraphs are literally the same ones on the other side. We have another poster. I like this poster because, again, it's so clean. I'm okay. I'm okay, not okay with this up here. Land of the Free, Home of the Strange. Put that at the bottom like you did everything else. But I do like that at the bottom, there's really nothing there. They're really focused on the characters. Again, I like this one, don't like this one. It's a little bit more colorful, a little too colorful for me, especially with this big neon smiley face. Overall, though, still a very, very nice clean poster, which I do always enjoy. So, all right, let's get back to the top of this. Now we're gonna pull up this this new clip from The Strangers Chapter 2, and let's see what they're gonna give us. So pretty quick look at as far as a clip. I think, let me check the timestamp on that. That was only roughly 46 seconds. It didn't feel like 46 seconds. It felt like that was much longer than, not much shorter, sorry, than 46 seconds. But yeah, and we can see that must be one of the hospital scenes. We can see that she's in a hospital gown. She's got the bracelet on. Now, obviously, this is somewhere, and I'm sure in a small town, because hospitals don't look like that. And just as far as the interior goes, old wooden doors, old windows like that lock like that. She manages to unlock it, get out. I mean, I don't know of any hospital, especially where I live, having been in the hospital, frequently over the last several years. You can't open windows you can't open the windows at all. Doesn't matter what floor you're on, you can't do it. And we see she's able to. She rolls out, and she looks like she's on a first floor of a multi-floor building. And even when she's on the outside, you can tell how old the building looks. So, probably in a very rural, small town, old school hospital. Just the sound when he gets his arm through the door and grabs her hair, and you hear that sound of the hair being pulled out and ripped, torn. They didn't hold back on what that sounded like. Now, I'd imagine that she's gonna be bleeding from the back of her head, having that hair yanked out like that. But yeah, very, very excited for this. Glad to see. Again, could be how they're cutting up the trailer. Could be how they're presenting us with these clips. But we see she's leaving the hospital. So unless this film is starting off in the hospital, and we spend some of the hour and 30 some minutes there, she, and in this case, escapes the hospital, and then the rest of the film is happening, on the run, so to speak, right? All right, everyone, that's going to do it for this horror news update for The Strangers Chapter 2, coming to theaters September 26th. Getting some of this information like the clip and Renny Harlin's update coming from this weekend's San Diego Comic-Con. So make sure to drop a comment in the comment section. Let us know what you think about the Strangers franchise, The Strangers Chapter 2. Also, if you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next one. Later.